Welcome to the All Need Music Podcast. I'm Matt, and today we got a special guest filling in for Jesse. We got
Damnit Dan.
Damnit Dan. Damnit Dan.
I was hoping you said
Oh.
you weren't going to say that it's filling in for Jesse because I want to be like, no, I'm Jesse.
Oh. You don't have enough gray. They wouldn't believe that.
I'm working on it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's got a lot more. He doesn't like to pretend like he does, but he does. So we got Dan filling in for Artist Spotlight, and we had to have Dan fill in on this one because Dan is like super obsessed with this guy. He's great. Dan is like over the top, like in love with this dude, and has been for a number of years. And so obviously today we're rocking merch like we do. I got the Waylon Hannell shirt, rocking that for local Michigan artist Waylon Hannell, and Damnit Dan's rocking the Frank Foster shirt. So
that's supposed to be a hurt. I can't do it.
You can't do it. You want?
Can you hurt me?
Maybe.
Like that was rough. That
Close.
Took too long.
Yeah, that was rough. Any rate, so already kind of blew it because we mentioned Frank Foster, and that totally botched what I was going to do for the intro. So we're going to skip that part of it. But any rate, Frank Foster is our artist spotlight for this episode. And if you guys don't know Frank Foster, he's 100% totally independent. Literally, the dude does everything himself. He writes his own music, records his own music. He's his own manager, and he's his own booking agent. The guy literally does it all, kind of like the Wayans brothers back in the day. And what the hell was that TV show? My dad used to get pissed when we watched in Living Color. Yeah, they did everything. So that Frank Foster is the Wayans brothers of country music, I guess, is what we'll say. The dude got his start, working on oil rigs in the Gulf of America.
Gulf Coast Cowboy.
And, then had a buddy that recorded a video of him. So that's what friends do, right? Records a video of him and put it on YouTube. And the video went viral and ultimately decided he wasn't going to do the oil rig stuff anymore and was going to go into releasing music. So,
and we're glad.
Yeah. Dan actually is responsible for turning me on to Frank Foster.
Turning everybody on to Frank Foster. If you hung out with me, you heard Frank Foster.
Yeah.
In my truck, at home, bonfires.
What was that? Probably 5-6 years ago now?
Feels longer than that. 8.
8? Has it been that long?
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while. And so, Dan turned me on to the guy and was like, oh, shit, I can get down with that. And, we've seen him in concert down in Flint at the Machine Shop.
Yep.
And that was Dan like, hey, Frank Foster's playing. We're going to go. Drove down there, and it was quite the eventful night, I guess we could say.
Yeah, it was eventful before the show even happened.
Right.
I get to the hotel to check in and get in my room, bring all my bags in, go out for something. I think we went to go shopping for a little bit for like an hour. Come back, can't get into my hotel room. Door's locked. Go down, try to get a new key, won't work. Turns out I was locked out of my room for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And luckily there was a couple next door. Come to find out they're going to see Frank Foster too. They're from Ohio. Really nice people. Invited us into the room so we could hang out. Matt wasn't there at the time. He showed up later. But end up going down every so often to try to get a new room key or something, see if they can get us in.
And they were waiting on a maintenance guy, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ended up waiting on a maintenance guy so he could break into the room. I'm standing at the desk, had my Frank Foster hat on. Obviously, I don't right now. But I hear out of the corner, I can hear somebody go, I know where this old boy's going. I turn around, it's Frank Foster standing there.
Right, yep.
So, got to meet him, walked up to him, like, hey, Frank, what's going on? Shook his hand. Just a genuine guy. When I talked to him, everything was about me. Like, didn't want to hype himself up or anything. Just want to talk about me. Like, hey, do you go fishing? Do you go hunting?
And Dan loves it when things are about him.
Not really. No, it was just cool for somebody like that. Like, I'm so excited to see him, and he's just asking me questions. You hunt? You fish? I talked about my boy, and he started talking about his boy, and it was just genuine. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So, just going to this concert, excited. Didn't think I'd meet him. Something bad happens where I'm locked out in my room for 3 hours. Turns out I get to meet Frank Foster. Couldn't have worked out any better.
Yeah, I mean, it was a roller coaster kind of night of good things and bad things, right? If I remember correctly,
that was a high. That was
this shirt you're wearing.
It goes back up to that.
This shirt you're wearing, is that from the concert? I want to say that you got a shirt at the concert, if I remember correctly.
At one point, I had a shirt from the concert.
Oh, okay.
I ended up with a CD though.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I bought you a shirt at the show, and you.
I left with a CD.
Yeah, lost the shirt, but somehow picked up a CD along the way, and I maybe we can add it in later. I don't know, but Dan turned into X-Men status that night.
I did.
Went a little too hard in the paint.
The people from Ohio, while we were in their hotel room, decided to feed me a bunch of booze, and I'm not a quitter, so I was like, "Yeah, I'll take another." And got a little tuned up. Turns out you can get cut off 3 times at a bar before you get kicked out.
Yeah, they put X's on the palms of your hands.
Yeah,
and
right there,
and then circled it, and then a little while later, you ended up with an X on the other hand with it circled. And then again after that, I think they were about ready to
then
do
the
it
bouncers,
on. They were going to put it on his face, I think.
Well, we had the 2 show up that were bigger than you, 2 of them.
Yep.
And luckily, Matt saved me. He's like, I got him. Puts his arm around me.
Yeah, I got a picture of you with those 2 security guards somewhere. I'm going to have to find.
They were awesome guys. Awesome.
Yeah. So Frank Foster, if you've not listened to his music, the dude's got a very original sound. He's put out 10 albums, so he's been around for a minute. His first album was put out in 2011, and just keeps putting out music. So he's not a newcomer by any stretch of the imagination. Tours the country, sells out venues regularly. Of his albums, he's charted 5 of them on the Billboard country charts when he's released them. With 2 of them that debuted in the top 10. So the guy's, he's no chump by any stretch of the imagination. Definitely puts out good music. But one of the downsides, and Dan and I have talked about this, and Jesse and I have as well, when you're completely independent, it makes it really difficult for your music to reach the masses. Now, obviously, social media has played a big part in his career and allowing him to blow up and continue to get new fans. But it's always going to be a little more difficult to kind of make that mainstream kind of jump, if you will, when you don't have a record label that's out there pushing your music to every radio station and everything else. You're relying solely on word of mouth, having friends like Dan that'll tell you, like, hey, you got to check this dude out, or like fans of the podcast that turn us on to new artists and new music. So the guy should be 100 times bigger than what he is. Dan would probably say 1,000,000 times bigger than what he is,
So that being said, before we went to that concert, his fan group, Frank Foster Nation, I'm part of that on Facebook. I was saying something about going to the concert and figured everybody was going to come from down south up north to see him. And there was a guy that lives 20 minutes from me, actually north of me.
Yeah.
And he's like, I love Frank Foster. And I got kind of jealous. I was like, I thought I was the only fanboy up north. But
right.
Well, turns out there's more people up north that know him. So
yeah, and his fans are nationwide and super loyal. I mean, he has events down in Cypress Bottom, Louisiana, where he's from. And, he'll have people turn out from 20, 30 states that'll come to Louisiana for the events that he hosts. He does a cruise, like a lot of artists have started doing. I believe that's in December, if I'm correct on that. Maybe you can correct me.
Was
Maybe
around there. I don't know if he's still doing it though.
I think he definitely is. I'm gonna.
Is he? Because I was gonna look it up. I've been looking at
certain,
cruises more. That's the only reason I didn't do it. Because I've never done a cruise.
Yeah, no. Let me. I'm gonna pull this up real quick because I'm almost certain that he has a cruise, and I want to say it's in December this year. He's got one going.
Well, I'd love to do it because then he'd be stuck on a boat with Frank Foster. Then he couldn't get away from him.
He's like, security.
Then we can be best friends.
Security. Can somebody get this guy away from me? Right. He's got a lot of shows coming up. Most of them down south in Louisiana, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri. Yep, December 4th, Blue Collar Cruise 3.
Well, I know what I'm doing this December. If anybody's looking for me, I'll be on a cruise.
Yeah, well, or if you see a news story about man getting thrown overboard because he won't leave Frank Foster alone, it's probably going to be this guy. Be my guess.
Fair enough.
At any rate, you know, the guy's got, obviously having 10 albums, got a ton of songs out there. And, you know, one of the things we like to do on the podcast when we're introducing artists that maybe people don't know, we like to throw out some songs that, you know, we're into that we think, you know, would be a good starting point with an artist or just good jams in general to listen to. And I know for me, you know, Dan, when he first said, you got to check this dude out, there was 2 songs that he played for me, and I don't remember which one came first, but it was Blue Collar Boys and Rowdy Reputation. And
probably Blue Collar Boys.
Both of those songs are absolutely incredible. And, you know, they're definitely songs that will get you into this dude. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a sample of one of those real quick, just so you guys got an idea.
A little rough and rowdy, ain't no doubt about it. Yeah, I've been on to tie one on. I'm the son of a son of a son of a gun. I come from a long line of having fun. You heard about a new age outlaw, and I'm the one. I was born and raised.
All right, so you guys get an idea there. You know, that's Rowdy Reputation. That's a great song to kind of give you guys a little bit of an introduction into Frank Foster. But some of the other songs that what's, you know, one of his songs that you think that is something that people would really just get into?
First of all, when you stop Frank Foster, when you start playing it, that don't work. I just want to crank it up and go. Rowdy Reputation, great tune. Jesse loves that too.
Yeah,
he's constantly playing it, and I'm like, yeah, that's right. I told you about the guy. Obviously, Blue Collar Boys. That's what got me hooked. And I was like, man, who is this guy? I look him up, Frank Foster. Obviously, my music, the more I play it, the more it plays more about him. And just got some Rowdy Reputation. Oh, man, it depends what kind of mood you're in, because he's got something for everything. Like, if you're down, like, Blowing Smoke is a good song. I don't know, when you get sad, you like to listen to sad country music.
Yeah.
So, that's what I do. Blowing Smoke's a good one about kind of losing your woman, whatever. What album was that off? Blowing Smoke was off of The Way It Was, I believe.
Okay.
Which is a funny story. I don't know if we want to get in there right now or not.
Go with it.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
So,
we just go down rabbit holes all the time. Yeah, you know that.
Well, we talked about this before. Music always takes you back to a certain point, right?
Yeah.
If you're feeling good, you're going to play that song because it made you feel good back then. Brings you right back to that spot.
Right.
So when I got The Way It Was CD, I was listening to it, and I was not in a good place. I was in the car with some people, and it just wasn't good. So I had to revisit it. And then I started hearing these songs, and I'm like, why did I not like this before?
Yeah.
So From being in a bad spot to hearing them now, I'm like, they're bangers. Like, everything's great. It's weird.
It's funny how music can do that to you, like depending on the mood you're in. I mean, I know I've listened to artists before where the first time I heard him, I was like, I don't know about all that. And then like something will come back around and I'll hear a song and I'll be like, who's that? And then I'll go and look like, oh, I've heard this before. I don't think I liked this before. Why do I like it now?
That's what gets me.
And it's just, you know, it can be the headspace that you're in at the time. It can just be, you know, sometimes like I go through phases, even though obviously the majority of what we do is country music, but there's times like I grew up listening to all kinds of different stuff and went through a phase, you know, where I grew up in California listening to, you know, 90s alternative rock. And there's times where it's like, I just want to go back down that rabbit hole. And that's, I get on this phase and like, I might hear country music during that time, but I'm not really listening to it. And I think that's the big thing is whether you're hearing it or whether you're listening to it. Right. And so if I'm in like that mode where I'm wanting to listen to a certain type of music at that point, I'll hear other stuff, but I'm not really giving it that ear that it needs to listen to it and appreciate it. And sometimes moods do that. Sometimes it's just what you're feeling at the moment, music wise, to listen to, and you know, they can come back around. I mean, I know, you know, there's times like you and I have talked about like wanting to listen to like a slow dance kind of song, and you're out with your woman and you want to just.
I was gonna say out with the women, not me and him talking about slow dance.
We've slow danced before. Me, you, and Jesse together at the Christmas party. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's pictures of that too. But at any rate, you know, there's songs where you like when you're out with your woman, you just want to hear certain kinds of music that, you know, are gonna kind of go with that mood that you're in with your woman. So,
well, Frank's got it.
Yeah,
he's got whatever you want.
So, I mean, listen, when we're saying the guy's got everything, and he's got a ton of fans. I mean, he's got literally 98 million YouTube plays and over 100,000 subscribers to his YouTube. There's a lot of artists that don't have anywhere near that in subscribers or plays on YouTube. He's got 229,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. So, you know, there's a lot of you that are hearing this that you're like, yeah, dude, I know about Frank Foster. I've been knowing about Frank Foster like you guys have. But there's people that haven't. And that's why we do these spotlights. We like to highlight artists that we're into. We like to highlight artists that our friends are into. And Dan's been a huge supporter of the podcast from the get-go. A lot of times it's behind the scenes, as you can see. Sometimes he's a man of few words. Sometimes he's a man of many words.
Well, that's because I can't get a word in when you're talking. Which is all the time.
So, you know, Dan is not one that's like, oh, let me come on the podcast. I want to do this. This was actually an idea that I pitched to him, you know, because of how much he loves Frank Foster.
What, 2 days ago? I guess it's been longer, but
no,
it was 2 days ago is when it actually happened. It's like, oh,
yeah,
right,
we've talked about it before, and like I get in these zones where I'm like, you know what, let's do it. We got to pull the trigger on it. We're not going to just talk about it. We got to make it happen. And so I said, listen, come over. We're doing this. And he's like, you mean like this week we're doing this? And I was like, absolutely. That's
I asked you yesterday when you want to do it. You said Thursday. I go, like tomorrow? Like,
yeah.
When you say Thursday, it's usually the next one. And I was like, oh, tomorrow. All right.
Yeah, no,
we can do that.
I'm like, let's get it done. That's what I want to do. And sometimes Dan can be hard to pin down. Dan has, if you follow the podcast at all, you know Dan's got, he doesn't have a rowdy reputation. He has a bail on you reputation. That's what Dan has. Frank, if you watch this, maybe write a song about your friend that always says he's going to show up but then doesn't.
I got a rowdy reputation as well. Thank you.
He does. I've
earned my title, Damnit Dan, multiple times.
100%. Absolutely has. I think I've probably had to assist Dan at concerts more than probably anyone else out of our group of friends for sure. And then I went, recently went and saw not Lainey Wilson, went and saw Ella Langley, and I decided to be Dan that night, and didn't get to finish the concert, so it was not a proud moment. It's always a bummer when you get that tuned up, but like it's so easy when you're like geeked about seeing somebody that you've wanted to see for a while, and you're like, hell yeah, and you're ready to just cut loose, and sometimes you just start going at it a little too hard beforehand and the pre-gaming because you're excited about it, and then you end up being bummed later because you're like,
I was gonna say, is it worth it when you miss them?
Right, yeah, it's like
Toby Keith.
Yeah. Dan missed Toby Keith, slept right through him in the camper. That was Faster Horses, but it happens. You get excited to see these artists, and you get some time off work. We're all like just everyday people. We got jobs just like everyone else, and when you get your time off, you want to go and enjoy yourself, and sometimes you want to enjoy yourself a little too much, and towards the end of the night, you're not in the best shape that you could be to finish the concert out, or in Dan's case, to catch Toby Keith, who was the headliner that year.
Yeah, that one hurt. Yeah, I think I still hold the record for most headliners missed at Faster Horses.
Yeah,
but when you get tuned up, or Jesse does, and I'm being responsible, I like that.
I don't know when that's ever happened. Honestly,
you got tuned up a couple times. Jesse got tuned up in Bay Harbor.
Yeah.
And I was like, is this what I'm like? Because that's annoying. I don't like it.
Yeah. But I think, in all fairness, I think we've all done it at one point or another, like going to a show or even not at a show and just getting a little bit too tuned up. You haven't? I think Dan's worried that his family might see this podcast and be like, Dan, you did what?
Mom, I'm a saint. That's right. If you're watching.
No. I'm pretty sure she knows. She knows the story of me carrying you out of Aldine, doesn't she?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so she knows he's not a saint.
Yeah. Speaking of that, if we get down to parents, obviously I love my dad a lot. My dad's my hero. I don't think I ever said that. I said it out loud to you before, but
yeah.
Now we got record of it.
Right?
Yeah, my dad's my hero. And there's songs like Conway Twitty, That's My Job, brings tears to my eyes.
Yeah.
Right? Frank Foster actually has one called The Old Man and Me. I played that for you.
Yeah.
It's like along the same lines, kind of follows that song, but does it in a different way. It just hits hard. So it's another song by Frank you can relate to.
Absolutely.
Just that's how he is, and just good old boy from the South.
Yeah. Well, I think anybody who, is just kind of like that working class country music fan is going to find a ton of his songs that they can relate to because that's what the dude is. Mm-hmm. And, when you're real and you're authentic in what you do, it makes it so much easier for people to relate to it because you're writing about stuff that you've lived and experienced. And so when people hear that, they're making that connection from their own lives to the same type of things.
Yeah.
So at any rate, Frank Foster, like I said, has been around. Not his first rodeo by any stretch of the imagination. 2011, we're in 2025 now, so 14 years that he's been putting out music, and has 10 albums that he's written, performed, produced, and sold, right? Like nobody else is doing that. Nobody else is grinding that way as an independent for that long. I don't know of anyone else out there that's been doing it that long.
I don't know.
So, and maybe there is, and if there is, please tell us. We want to know about those kind of artists. But like this guy's sold, hundreds of thousands of albums and singles over the years, and does it without the help of a label at all. It's just like a family thing. And he started his own record label years ago, which is Lone Chief Records, and probably one of the coolest stories that many of you don't know.
I think I had to tell you about that.
Yeah.
I had to tell you and Jesse about that. Yeah.
Yep. So he signed somebody that I guarantee you every one of you have heard of to his record label back in 2014 and produced her album. And then her second album with him was in 2016. And he produced that, and it peaked at 44 on the Billboard charts. And since that time, she's no longer with his label, but she has become an absolute household name. What do you mean? She's
all right.
Yeah,
I've heard of her.
Yeah, you've probably heard a thing or two about her, and that's Lainey Wilson. Back before the bell bottoms and country's cool, Lainey Wilson, also from Louisiana, signed a record deal with Frank Foster back in 2014. He produced her first two albums, and they've even got songs out together. So you can go back and listen to some of that old Lainey Wilson stuff with her and Frank and songs that he produced for her as well. So that's kind of a really cool thing. I think that most people aren't aware of, even, if they are people that have heard, unless they're like hardcore Frank Foster people like you are, right? And they listen to his music, they've heard it, and, maybe even gone to a show or two of his, wouldn't necessarily know that. It's not something where he sits back and like tooting his own horn that like, oh, I signed her way before she was, this megastar that she is now. You really, if you try and find that stuff, that just doesn't exist. There's not like videos of him out there doing interviews like, hey, look at me. I signed Lainey Wilson long before she was a household name. Nothing like that. The guy is very much
a good old boy.
Yeah, and just humble dude. So at any rate, make sure you guys are checking him out on YouTube. You can listen to him on Apple Music. You can stream him on Spotify. You can listen to him on Amazon, Pandora, you name it. He's on every streaming platform there is. He's on Facebook. Go check him out. Go check out his music. And, if you've not heard of him before and you're just hearing about him for the first time, make sure you throw a little comment out on his socials, on his YouTube, whatever it is where you go, and just say, hey, you know what? Came here, found you, compliments of the Y'all Need Music podcast, and we appreciate that. If you're not following us on any of the socials, you can find us on YouTube, you can find us on Spotify, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, anywhere that you can get podcasts, you can find us, and you can find us on all the regular socials. So thanks again for sticking with us to another episode, and we're going to catch you next time on... Oh, wait. I'm used to Jesse saying that on the Y'all Need Music podcast.
Oh, Y'all Need Music podcast.
Later.